This Star Trek Voyager episode subtly confirmed Captain Kirk broke a TOS promise. Star Trek Voyager's Captain Janeway, Kate Mulgrew, revealed that Captain Kirk, William Shatner, broke a promise he made during a Season 3 episode of Star Trek, the original series. Although Voyager and the original series didn't tend to have much in common, TOS was a source of inspiration for every Star Trek movie and TV show that came after it, being the father of the franchise and the originator of the Star Trek timeline. As such, Voyager had the occasional obscure reference to TOS throughout its run, including in the Season 4 episode, Concerning Flight. Concerning Flight had an interesting premise that focused on the holographic Leonardo da Vinci, John Rhys Davis, who had been introduced in the previous two-part episode, Scorpion. Due to an attack by alien pirates, the da Vinci hologram was stolen from the USS Voyager's databanks, and with the help of the doctors, Robert Picardo, mobile emitter, had an adventure on an alien planet, along with Captain Janeway and Tuvok, Tim Russ. While Janeway and Tuvok were working on reacquiring Da Vinci from the aliens, they had a discussion about the real Da Vinci that revealed a surprising TOS Easter egg. While talking about Da Vinci with Tuvok in Concerning Flight, Janeway referenced the fact that Captain Kirk claimed to have met the real Da Vinci, although the evidence for the claim was inconclusive. Janeway's comment was a reference to the Star Trek the original series episode Requiem for Methuselah, during which Kirk, Spock, Leonard Nimoy, and dear McCoy, DeForest Kelley, encountered an immortal being going by the name Flint, James Daly, on an alien planet. During the episode, Flint revealed that he had been many famous historical figures from Earth's past, including Da Vinci. Janeway referencing Kirk meeting Da Vinci in Voyager is certainly an obscure callback, but also underscores just how interconnected the Star Trek franchise is. Voyager's creative team clearly did their homework for Concerning Flight, making sure that the continuity between Voyager and TOS remained solid with a reference like Janeway's comment about Kirk. This would almost certainly have pleased audiences who were aficionados of TOS and Voyager at the time. However, it also reveals that Kirk may have been in the wrong by telling people about meeting Flint. Star Trek Voyager confirms Captain Kirk broke his TOS Requiem for Methuselah promise. Janeway being aware that Kirk met Flint at all shows that Kirk broke a promise he made to Flint towards the end of Requiem for Methuselah, not to reveal the man's identity. As a trade-off for leaving Flint and his android love interest Reyna, Louise Sorrell, alone. Despite Kirk being in love with Reyna, Kirk promised that Flint's secret about being Da Vinci and several other important historical figures was safe with him. However, Kirk must have documented his encounter with Flint somewhere for Starfleet, or else Janeway would never have mentioned it. Given that Captain Kirk is known for being a wild-card character, and the fact that he was at odds with Flint over their mutual feelings for Reyna, it's not completely surprising that he broke his promise about revealing Flint's identity. While it isn't clear when or why Kirk discussed Flint in Star Trek Voyager, the matter had apparently become part of the historical record. Ultimately, Kirk breaking his promise to Flint likely mattered little, since Flint's immortality was failing, but it does underscore some of Kirk's less desirable personality traits. In the vast and interconnected lore of the Star Trek universe, continuity and consistency across series and eras can sometimes be a challenge. One of the most interesting examples of this occurs in Star Trek Voyager, where an episode subtly but pointedly suggests that Captain James T. Kirk, the charismatic and bold captain of the original USS Enterprise, TOS, broke a promise he made in Star Trek, the original series. This moment, hidden in plain sight, not only showcases the expansive nature of the Star Trek mythos, but also reveals the subtle ways in which the captains of Starfleet are often caught between duty, personal values, and the changing tide of history. To understand this, we need to revisit an episode from Star Trek, the original series, titled A Taste of Armageddon, Season 1, Episode 23. In this episode, Captain Kirk and the crew of the USS Enterprise encounter two warring planets, Eminir 7 and Vendikar. These civilizations have been locked in a centuries-long war fought not with traditional weapons, but through computerized simulations. When the simulations register a hit, the people within the targeted areas voluntarily report to disintegration chambers to die, making the war completely clean, sanitized, and devoid of real destruction, except for the human cost. Kirk, upon discovering this chilling system, is morally outraged. He famously takes drastic action, destroying the war simulation computers and forcing the two planets to confront the actual horrors of war, or ideally seek peace. In the episode's closing moments, Kirk optimistically tells the leaders of Aminier 7 that they now have a choice: either work towards peace or face real warfare. Importantly, he leaves them with a promise that the Federation will assist in brokering peace if they choose that path. The Federation's principles of non-interference, Prime Directive, were stretched here, but Kirk's intervention is justified by his belief that his actions would end the senseless cycle of violence and lead to a peaceful resolution. Now fast forward to Star Trek Voyager, specifically the episode Flesh and Blood, Season 7, Episode 9. In this story arc, the crew of the USS Voyager is drawn into a conflict involving the Hirogen, a nomadic species known for their violent hunting culture, and a group of advanced holograms. Years earlier, Captain Janeway had given the Hirogen holographic technology to help them develop more complex and less lethal ways to fulfill their predatory instincts. However, the holograms developed sentience and rebelled, leading to a new and dangerous conflict. What's fascinating about this episode is the way it mirrors the situation Kirk faced in A Taste of Armageddon, and how the promise he made is indirectly addressed. During Flesh and Blood, the Voyager crew learns that the Hirogen, like the people of Aminier 7 and Vendikar, have become trapped in a self-perpetuating cycle of violence. Janeway's well-intentioned decision to provide holographic technology was supposed to help the Hirogen evolve beyond their brutal hunting practices. However, instead of ending their violent ways, it escalated into a war with sentient holograms, one even more ethically complex than before. In A Taste of Armageddon, Kirk had also left behind technology, his promise of peace hinging on the hope that the people of Aminier 7 and Vendikar would take the opportunity to change. The subtle connection between these episodes lies in the inherent danger of assuming that a single intervention can permanently change the course of a society. Kirk's destruction of the war simulations was a radical move, but the promise of continued Federation support implied a long-term commitment that was never followed through. Though Voyager never directly references Aminier 7, the situations presented in both episodes are eerily similar, and it is reasonable to draw the conclusion that Kirk, or at least the Federation, never returned to help the people of Aminier 7 after his dramatic intervention. This lack of follow-up subtly suggests that Kirk broke his promise. The very idea that peace could be achieved through a single, bold action without the necessary diplomatic support and cultural engagement is undermined by Voyager's depiction of the Hirogen's conflict. It's an indirect critique of Kirk's methods and a reminder that real peace, particularly in deeply entrenched conflicts, requires ongoing effort. This contrast between Kirk's optimistic, action-first philosophy and Janeway's more cautious and diplomatic approach speaks volumes about the evolution of Star Trek captains. While Kirk was the quintessential hero of his time, willing to defy rules to achieve what he saw as morally just, Janeway often grapples with the consequences of such interventions. She is more aware that Starfleet's influence can have unintended consequences, as her decision to give the Hirogen holographic technology demonstrates. In many ways, Flesh and Blood can be seen as a cautionary tale about the dangers of assuming that technological or military solutions can replace the hard work of cultural understanding and diplomacy.